It's live.
What's something? Oh, we're live. Oops. Shut up now.
I can't. Jose, mute.
There, I did it. Hey, wait. We're about to do a throwback. Ready?
Oh wow, I just saw that now.
What the fuck is happening?
It says that we're live.
Yeah, we're live. We're actually live.
And then I muted Clarence, like the good old times.
There's people commenting on there. So.
Is there actually?
Wait, let me see this shit.
It says that we're live.
Yeah, we're live. We're actually live.
And then I muted Clarence, like the good old times.
There's people commenting on there.
So hello guys, this is our first HHN 2018 podcast. We're officially live. I have a lot of great people here today. We have first off Clarence.
Hey, what's up?
We also have Justin at HHN Maniacs.
Mannix, hello.
And we have last but certainly not least, the man, the myth, the legend, Scott from SoCal Exploring.
Yo, I like feet.
Feet now, huh?
So pretty much, HHN 2018 has started production. There's not a lot going on, so we're just kind of going to talk about stuff that we think could come to the event. So I just wanted to open it up. Anybody, just throw anything out there where you think has a possibility of showing up this year?
Well, first of all, I highly think that we're getting a Mummy Maze this year. We were gonna get it last year, but it didn't happen. But now I think that it's a high possibility because it's a year old, and I think that it's a high chance.
Yeah, I just think they wanted to wait an entire year just to do it. They didn't want to wait to do like a promotion for it. So I agree with Scott.
I think the Mummy is bound to show up at the event. It's gonna be a ride, so that's confirmed already.
Okay, good speculation. Clarence, do you have anything to say?
I really think we're gonna get the X-Men maze, so it's pretty cool. I don't know what to say. I haven't been updating on this in a while.
I really think that we're gonna get Blumhouse 2.0.
Yeah, Blumhouse 2.0 and Cabin Stories. And Cabin Stories.
All right, so anyways, Murdy had a Q&A a couple days ago, and pretty much one of the biggest things he answered was that we're gonna be losing a maze location and gaining a new maze location.
Really?
There's a lot of speculation going around about this.
Oh my god, I did not see that.
Bro, I got
oh shit.
I got a mask. That's for one of the scare zones. See, this is for 2018. You guys have no idea, bro.
Anyway, so with the maze locations, I do think that we are gonna lose what's it called? We're gonna lose Waterworld, Jurassic Park, and Persian Courtyard are both staying there for sure. There's no doubt about that.
We're gonna lose Persian Courtyard, huh?
Murdy already said that we're gonna have Persian Courtyard.
Yeah, Murdy said that.
Honestly, I would really love to get rid of Parisian Courtyard, but I don't think it's gonna happen. As I talked about in my video, that supposedly Jurassic Park is going to be going through a long period of refurbishment that might last through the whole summer. So I think really that's the one that's out, even though that's probably my favorite venue. But that's pretty disappointing, honestly, that ends up being a Jurassic Park queue.
Yeah, because a lot of great mazes come out of the Jurassic Park queue, and it's just sad to see it go.
And another thing is that if we're not going to be getting Jurassic Park until 2019 or 2020, the last maze that we had in there was Insidious Beyond the Fur. So I think that's kind of a bad send off, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad send off, but honestly, what can you do about it? But now what's interesting is the location we're going to be gaining, since I know there's a lot of different areas really where they could put a maze, but to me, what I'm thinking the most right now is probably somewhere in the back lot, since there's not that much space left on the upper lot or the lower lot where else he's gonna cram it. So what do you guys think?
Wait, what was the question?
Yeah, it kind of was breaking.
Where do you think he's gonna put the new maze location?
I think that it's going in Little Europe. It's a crazy speculation, but I think a lot of people have said Little Europe as a suggestion, and they could easily put a tram back there, or make people walk.
I think they could put it somewhere like different in the back lot and just like do like another like tram taking you out there, but I don't know. It just doesn't
it'd
seem.
Be crowd control would be the issue.
Yeah, that's pretty much like my biggest concern with something like that too. Honestly, I think maybe just like putting it to the side of like 747, or actually using the soundstage 747 as a maze and keeping another maze like outside of the soundstage.
There's no more like project in 747, so I think that they definitely could.
But Murray mentioned that he can't get 747 back for like some reason because like he needs to buy it or something. I don't know.
Or what they could do is like the Little Europe idea. Like they can have where you walk to the back lot, right? But they could also have a separate area where you take the tram to Little Europe, and there could be like a scare zone back there. That way, it's not just a maze.
Yeah, and they could stick like a really popular property there, so that there's like a reason to really go there.
I need to know more information.
That would make sense, but it feels like if it were just one maze down there, it honestly feels like a huge waste of time just to take a tram.
Yeah.
Just for one maze, which I feel like could be pretty much a big problem with a lot of people.
But in reality, though, like there's really no other place to put it. I mean, they could do it somewhere where the studio tour's at, like you said before, the tram garage. But I don't think that'd work. But there is a bunch of places that just, I mean, they have a maze and water road queue. That's pretty small. There's a bunch of places that's just kind of weird, but it'd work as a maze location.
Yeah.
Like thinking about this recently, I've kind of come to consider that maybe behind the Despicable Me area, we used to have like mazes back there where when Terminator was still there, but I know they can't build it in the actual queue line because like the queue line posts are like welded onto the floor on like Terminator where they could remove them. But I think if it's like the queue line is similar to how it was back in like the mazes that were in that area, there is pretty much enough space to like spring up a tent back there. Just put the maze there and make the queue line like in Super Silly Funland or somewhere around there. I think that would pretty much work if they were to do something like that.
Since the DreamWorks Theater is coming, we don't know how the queue is going to work. It could be an indoor queue. It could be like right in front. But if it is like an indoor queue or it's like a different path from Shrek, they could put a maze right there too.
La Llorona was there.
Inside the indoor queue or outside?
No, not inside. So like if there was an inside queue, like because we don't know how big the building's going to be yet. But if it was like inside the queue, or like if it was an indoor queue for the DreamWorks Theater, they have all that empty space right there, like where the old Shrek queue was, to put a maze, and then they could make the exit like go into DreamWorks Theater. I don't know, like a tunnel or some shit.
So pretty much kind of like it was back when like you used to put mazes in the Shrek venue.
Yeah.
Where like you exit through like the pretty much like the theater.
Yeah.
That would work, but that's considering the big if, like you said, if the queue is indoors, because if it's not indoors, like they have the little outdoor section like they did for Shrek, with like Harry Potter, like pretty much like the area where the area where they used to build mazes back there. There's literally no more room, so they literally can't put a maze there.
And here's another thing to consider is having two mazes where Waterworld's at, because they do have that big space where like you walk behind to get into the Waterworld bleachers. If they put a maze there, it wouldn't make much of a difference. The only thing is they just have to let people into the main entrance of Waterworld.
Yeah, I feel like there is like also like a lot of like back area space like where Harry Potter is at. I know that's been mentioned sometimes, but I don't know how if they would allow people to go back there. I think that would be a good location for a maze. But, again, this is all just pretty much just like big ifs right now. What could happen. But to me, really right now, it's either the backlot or behind Despicable Me. That's what I think the two biggest contenders for a new maze location are.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but, I agree.
For the one we're losing, though, I think we could all agree that it's most likely probably going to be the Jurassic Park queue, unfortunately, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's like I truly believe it's gonna be Jurassic Park.
If it isn't, then that's great because I love that maze location. But it's probably gonna be it. So,
but yeah, now talking about like properties that have a chance of coming to the event, I think there's a couple that are just pretty much dead given at this point that I think we can all agree that are probably gonna show up to the event this year. That being American Horror Story, either a mashup or Cult or Asylum, and the new Halloween, which is being produced by Blumhouse, which automatically puts it on Murdy's radar, meaning it's probably going to happen. So
now,
that's going to be interesting to see.
Halloween is for sure going to be a maze that comes. Like, there's no doubt about that. It's not confirmed yet, but that's like a for sure thing. Murdy loves Jason Blum.
There's like an interview back at the opening of Horror Nights where it's like it's Jason Blum talking about how he needs to give John Murdy a script of Halloween, and John Murdy saying, "Oh yeah, I have my radar for Halloween for next year." So it's such a dead giveaway.
Yeah, again, he loves working with Jason Blum. They did the Horrors of Blumhouse last year. Halloween is a pretty big franchise that people associate with. The movie's coming out in October. It's perfect for him marketing the film while people go through the maze. So it's just pretty much like the perfect IP to come to the event this year. And I think it's a dead given that it's going to be at the event this year. But we haven't seen really anything about the new Halloween movie, so we don't know how it's going to play out. But I'm pretty interested in seeing where he takes this film, considering this is a franchise we have seen at the event multiple times at this point.
And like Jose and I made points in our update videos, is like he didn't bring Michael Myers and the Titans of Terror at all this year. Probably just to free up space for this to come in this year.
Yeah, and also the locations, like where are we going to be going in this maze? Like there's set photos going on around right now about going back to the Haddonfield Hospital and casting calls for mental patients. So we could be going to the sanitarium from the first film, the hospital from the second film in this film, and then the Myers house. So it's like a variety of locations rather than just like when we had Halloween back in 2015 and it was just the Myers house. And we had Halloween last year, 2016, and we had just like mainly the hospital.
All right, here's what I want to talk about next. Is it. Now it is one of those ones that I said that like it can be an icon. Well, not an icon, but like the face of the event. Like plaster him all over the place on promotions and marketing and all this crap. So like my question is, if they did it, where would it be located, and how do you think that Murdy is gonna pull it off?
I think it would either be located in the 747 area or it'd be located in the Waterworld queue, because those locations are pretty big. And I think he'd pull it off by, I'd love the Neibolt house to be built up in its full scale. But, we saw back in 2015 with Crimson Peak that he didn't build the whole like facade of the big castle or whatever. And so I think he's just going to have it like be Billy's house, and we're going to go through the scenes, like the projector scene and encountering Pennywise in the basement. And then we're going to go through the different encounters and then make our way to Neibolt and then make it to the finale. So that's how I think it's going to be pulled off. But if it does happen, I'm really excited for it. Murray's been mentioning a lot recently that like out of all the horror films he's seen recently, like when people ask him, that it is the one that really impressed him. So, and plus it's like making so much money right now. So, it made so much money. It's like one of the highest grossing horror films like ever. So I think there's a huge chance.
Oh yeah, and especially since like let's be real here, Horror Nights loves money. This is something that's gonna bring so much more fans to the event.
Yeah, even not like
it Mazer.
Yeah, even not like horror. Like horror, not even like horror fans. Like people who aren't even fan of horror love that movie. A lot of people have seen it. A lot of people love it. And they're gonna say, "Hey, there's an It Maze at this event. Let's go." It's kind of like how we had the Hollywood thing, the It Maze experience at Hollywood last year, which was really lackluster. But there was a ton of people who went to that because they were so excited.
Oh God. Anyways, but yeah, it's definitely gonna bring in a bigger demographic to the event.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with you guys that that it's definitely the biggest horror property out there right now at the moment. But to me, there's two big ifs that prevent it from coming to the event. Number one, Stephen King has said that he doesn't like people using his properties. I know we had The Shining last year, but since it was based on the film, he hates The Shining film. He doesn't hide the fact that he doesn't like the movie, so he really didn't care that we used it. But with it, that's something that he really, pretty much like his darling, pretty much, Stephen King. we would have to get clearance from him to be able to use his property at the event. And number two, which is the main reason I don't think it has as high of a chance of showing up to the event as people think, is that Warner Brothers, they started their own horror event last year on their lot, and they had an It maze and a Conjuring maze and a Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was supposed to be a test to see if people would actually be interested in them doing their own thing like Horror Nights, and it turns out it had like a pretty big turnout and whatnot. So it could just be that they want to do like their own thing and like stop giving Universal their properties to pretty much do mazes since they could do it themselves, which I think is primarily the reason that we might not get The Conjuring this year as well.
Yeah, that's probably why Murdy. I don't mean to cut you off, but that's probably the reason as to why Murdy mentioned a week ago in that Q&A that if he could do The Conjuring, he would.
Yeah, definitely. I think that they're gonna pretty much just be like, you know what? These are our properties. We want to do our own thing. We don't want to give them to you when we can be making more money off of them, pretty much. So it all comes down to money. It's a big money game. So I do think that kind of just cuts the chances of it coming to the event or The Conjuring at that point. But like Murdy said, like he never stops trying, like with The Exorcist and The Shining until he finally gets it. So I definitely do think we might see it someday, but I don't think we have as high of a chance of seeing it this year as a lot of people would think. So.
Yeah, but also another thing is that the sequel is coming out next year, so maybe they don't want to do it like this year. Maybe they can do it, but maybe they just don't want to do it, and they want to do it next year to promote the new movie. So there's that. But also, something that I thought of is that maybe they want to do like the original 1990 miniseries It, and then next year they'll do It Chapter 1 from 2017 and Chapter 2 to promote the new movie, just to have, even though it's not even the 2017 version this year, it's just to have the name brand at the event. And Stephen King doesn't even like the 1990 version. So,
all right, so let's move on to another topic of Universal milking The Purge all the time and seeing how The Purge is going to be coming back this year as a scare zone.
Murdy mentioned that we are getting like maybe one IP scare zone, and then we'll get the rest will be original. And I just noticed yesterday that Horror Nights Instagram liked a photo of the Purge poster from Blumhouse.
Is this like some fucking Keemstar shit that Justin's doing?
Yeah. So I think that's kind of like a dead giveaway. So.
Murdy unfollowed Jason Blum on Instagram. You know what that means? No Blumhouse ways.
I think The Purge at this point is pretty much just like, if you think like pretty much people associate The Purge with Horror Nights and they just expect
it's like Walking Dead. Like it's like Walking Dead.
It's like Walking Dead was a few years ago, where you would instantly hear the Walking Dead theme song and you would think of Horror Nights pretty much. If you see The Purge pretty much posters anywhere, you think, oh, it's Halloween Horror Nights. It's pretty much like it blends in so well with the event and it just works so well that I think they're going to keep milking this until people get fed up with it, kind of like they did with Walking Dead. Or maybe even further, because the thing with Walking Dead is that it got old pretty quickly because it's the same thing. It's
exactly.
walkers.
Walking Dead is the same. It's walkers and like just like these small little different characters. So that's what it is.
Yeah, with The Purge, they have a lot more freedom. Like we've seen them do original takes on it and whatnot because they have the freedom to do that because it's pretty much just like any mass character could be purging.
And we're gonna get new movies every year until they're done storytelling. Like. There's no doubt about it that we're going to get more Purges, at least 2 more.
Yeah, we have the new movie coming out, and I also read somewhere online that they've been talking about maybe even doing a Purge television series. So the Purge is definitely going to be something that's going to stick around for a long time, and I think that Horror Nights is going to keep milking it until people get pretty much kind of annoyed with it, which I don't think is going to be anytime soon, since people really seem to enjoy the Purge each time it shows up at the event.
And here's the thing, guys, is like, when they do this Purge TV show, if they do it, which they've been talking about for quite some time, who knows, they could be already filming, it's gonna be partnered with one of Universal's TV networks. That way they can automatically use it and automatically brand it. That's what Universal does. Murdy doesn't get a say in this. Universal goes ahead and says, Murdy, you're gonna do this, so we can brand it.
Yeah, but there is something that I wanted to point out with all the last year when we had Pores at Blumhouse, which Purge was really, really bad in it. At the very end, there was a machine gun shooting at us, and that got taken out due to the shooting. that happened in Vegas, and with all the political stuff that's going on right now, and the Purge movie, basically the poster being like almost like a Trump hat, basically. Do they want to keep? I mean, like, I'm sure they're gonna keep doing it, but are they gonna like risk? You know, because I know that Horror Nights has become really sensitive over time. So are they gonna risk doing the Purge again and again and again, like when it's getting more and more political?
But here's the thing, though. Let's face it. You know, they have featured like little political gags with the Purge, like with the Scare Zone, the election year one. They had like the two candidates. One of them had like Trump's hair on it, and the other one was a woman. You know, kind of Hillary and Trump. But here's the thing, like the majority of people who go to Horror Nights, they're more of like California, more of like a liberal background, which really wouldn't mind it since the Purge is kind of in opposition to Trump, really. So I don't think a lot of people are really gonna mind it as opposed to kind of cheering it on. You get what I'm saying? Kind of.
And like the election year, the movie itself was very political in terms of they're basing it off current events, like with the whole election and everything. But the thing with the whole Trump hat and the cover, it's not like the Trump hat and the cover is going to be a part of the event. They're just going to base it off the movie. And that's what they did with election year. They really didn't base it off of what the actual story is. They just have a bunch of scary ass Purge guys in the maze.
But I was just thinking, after last year, with the the machine gun at the very end is getting removed due to the Vegas shooting, like because of sensitivity. Are they?
And the thing that I want to make a comment about that is like, I think that they only did that due to the fact that it was a tragedy. But if it's political crap, then like Jose said, like more oppositions to Trump are in California. They don't give a shit about that. But if it's a tragedy, then yeah, I can see why they're doing that.
Yeah. Even though they still
it's definitely like there is a big difference there. It's like you're talking about like something political that most people agree with comparing it to a tragedy, which I get why they removed the gun. It's kind of unsensitive. People like struggling with like gun control issues and whatnot, and you go to this event to kind of forget about it, and you have this guy with the huge machine gun shooting at you.
I'm sorry. I gotta mute my mic.
To me, that just kind of really made sense why they removed it, and I think it's different, honestly.
Yeah. But they still got the sound effect either way.
Yeah, you still bring up a good point, and it makes sense, but I don't think that's really gonna stop them from keep doing Purge at the event.
Oh, look at who joined us, Mr.
Even though I don't want the Purge to come back, it's just gonna come back. But speaking of another property that I think has a huge chance of coming to the event is Stranger Things.
Okay, here's the thing with Stranger Things. Like, that's another demographic thing. If they see that Stranger Things is at the event, if they see an advertisement for this, all these kids and all these people are gonna be like, "Oh man, let's go experience Stranger Things in real life. I really want to see that. Let's go to this event that we know nothing about just to see the Stranger Things movies."
Yeah, it's again another big property like it. It's just gonna draw in a whole bunch of people, kind of like American Horror Story has been doing. Just because Stranger Things, it's probably the biggest television series right now. I don't know how the ratings challenge like with Netflix and like cable TV shows and whatnot, but it's definitely a huge property, and I think Horror Nights again, they're going after huge properties to bring in the money. So I think it's definitely on Murdy's radar, and he might actually go ahead and do it this year. Since with season 1, I kind of understand there wasn't a lot to work off with, but with season 2, he definitely has a lot he can base a maze off.
And season 3 is coming out and around the same time that Horror Nights comes. So once again, like I said, this is all my updates. All my updates that I'm going to put out is just Horror Nights likes to brand. They are going to milk branding, and they can brand Stranger Things like crazy, and whatever else the big problem Halloween. They can do all that crap just like they did with Cult of Chucky. How they put that shit in our ears consistently after the Terror Tram. They're going to do the same with Stranger Things or it.
And plus, with Stranger Things, since season 3 is coming right around the same time, they could just do season 3 next year and just do it like Walking Dead, basically.
And Ben makes a good point in the chat that more money means a bigger budget, and they definitely need that because fuck these black holes.
Yeah, we definitely need a bigger budget. Like it's ridiculous. But on the topic of classical properties and properties that I would love to see come to the event is the John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah, Jose.
There's
Jose,
another one that's
Jose.
pretty big
Yeah.
that I think has a shot this year. You know, last year I believe I was at Monster Palooza or Scare or one of the conventions. Somebody asked him that, like, now that you did The Exorcist and you're doing The Shining, what's like the next big property that you want to do? And he said John Carpenter's The Thing. And he's been talking a lot about, he said he's gonna do one of his bucket list properties this year, maybe one more. So I think The Thing is definitely the next big one that he wants to do. It
Yeah.
would definitely be a maze that would cost a lot of money to do, but he could reuse some stuff from like the 2011 Thing maze, which was based off the prequel that came out the same year. It was a pretty good maze, even though the movie was kind of crappy. But I'm honestly, I think that he will be doing The Thing this year. It has a really high chance of coming to the event, and I'm just pretty excited to see how he pulls it off, to be honest.
Yeah. And speaking of which, that maze, if the thing actually comes, it's perfect in the Mummy queue if they don't get rid of the Mummy queue. But yeah, the thing is such a classical film, and I love it so much. And Murdy's been like tweeting like about like snow, like he was riding a maze, and Ireland was covered in snow. So maybe that's related to the thing. I don't know a lot of other horror films that have like snow as a big central theme in it. So yeah.
Yeah, and the thing it pretty much, just kind of fills in the whole, an 80s horror film coming to the event, the classic horror film that we've had since, we did American Werewolf in London. It's been a trope that's been at the event since then. Every year we have a classic horror film show up at the event, and I think The Thing is going to be the one for this year, if
Yeah.
you ask me.
And then
What's it called? What was I gonna say? Shit. And Murdy basically, like, okay, like everyone's seen this tweet. He went in through his little riddle in there that just pretty much gives it away about like, oh, I'm working on this thing today.
Yeah, but speaking of Murdy and what he likes to do and mashups, he said that he'd like to do a classical maze, like an old throwback maze, but it's not from this decade. So I think that's kind of like classical monsters because he loves classical monsters, and he stated before that he would love to do like a mashup, and that like at the same panel that he mentioned that he wanted to do The Thing. He also mentioned he wanted to do Universal Monsters. And he's mentioned that like, oh, there's a challenge of it being scary, and that he loves the challenge. So I think there's like a huge chance we could get like Universal Monsters, which I would love.
I think there is a shot as well. That tweet you were talking about, when I read it, I immediately thought of the classic monsters as well, and that could also be the bucket list maze he's talking about, since it's pretty much something he's been wanting to do since he started doing horror nights. So this again, it does have a big shot of coming to the event this year, and after last year when we had all these different mashup mazes, he probably has an idea on how he wants to do it. So I think this year might be the year he actually ends up doing it. So again, I do think it has a pretty big shot at coming to the event this year, and I'd be pretty excited to see how he pulls it off, since he's been talking about wanting to do this maze for such a long time, like with Exorcist and Shining, and I love both of those mazes. So, any passion project Murdy wants to do, I'm just pretty excited to see how it turns out.
And when he says not in this century, what's he gonna do? A freaking Frankenstein standalone maze? I know there's a lot of old movies. But I feel like when he says not in the century, he's aiming for classic monsters, not another property, because the property that he already wants to do, or the older property that he already wants to do, is a thing, as we know, as we already talked about. And seeing how everyone's been speculating on an original maze, this would be a good thing to come to the event, especially since he just did Titans of Terror and he knows how to like kind of collaborate all these monsters into one maze.
Yeah. Speaking also of mashups, one of the mazes that did really well last year that I hated, but it did really well was the Horrors of Blumhouse. That was like the second highest rated. And, Murdy loves working with Jason Blum. And recently Get Out got nominated for an Oscar. So is there a possibility that we could see maybe a Blumhouse 2 with Get Out incorporated, and maybe the new Purge, or maybe Truth or Dare, which is coming out in April?
No.
You know, I could see that happening, but at the same time, I feel like there's other things he wants to do before, you know, he were to go back and do Blumhouse again. So I feel like it is something to consider, but I don't know. I have a gut feeling that it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, and then something that you bring up, and something that you bring up a lot, Josue, The Strangers, the new film's coming out in March.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love I really like the original, and I think it's really scary, and you know, it's a really fun movie, and you know, I think the sequel is going to be really good as well. So maybe it could come to the event, and I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, you know, it's been at the event before. It was in the House of Horrors in 2007, so it has been at Horror Nights before. And again, you know, they're characters that you can even throw into something like The Purge, and they would just blend in because they're just, you know, mass killers pretty much, and they are kind of iconic if you think about it. You know, I grew up when the first Strangers came out, and the commercial just, you know, scared the crap out of my brother, and it still does to this day. So they're kind of recognizable characters, and it took way too long to get the sequel out. So I do think it's definitely something to consider, since again it's a recognizable franchise, and a lot of people know about it. And you know, again, like they're just pretty easy characters to do, but I think this would work more as a sort of scare zone rather than in a full blown maze. But
yeah,
we'll have to see about that.
Yeah. Maybe. Oh wait, Scott, you go.
Oh no, I was gonna go on a different topic, so go ahead and.
No, you're good.
Okay. Trick or Treat. It was in Orlando last year. It's a scare zone. Do you think it's gonna be a maze, or is it gonna be that one IP scare zone?
I don't think it's gonna be that one IP scare zone because again, The Purge. But it did so well in Orlando last year that I'm thinking that maybe Orlando will want to do a maze. You know, just because of how well it just did, and that we could share it maybe. You know, just because you know, just how popular it was last year, and it kind of and maybe that clicked into Murdy's head that we don't have to wait until the sequel. Like it's so popular. It's not like you know when the sequel comes out, it's just gonna be popular. You know.
Yeah, you know, and waiting for the sequel, honestly, if he's waiting for the sequel, this maze is not going to happen. Probably while he's working here, since, you know, Mike Doherty right now, he's doing Godzilla 2, which is a pretty big project, so I don't even think the Trick or Treat sequel is in his mind at the moment. I know he already announced it and he said he wants to do it, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think if it comes out, it's going to come out 2 or 3 years from now, which it's a pretty long time. So, you know, if Orlando actually does do Trick or Treat, since they had the scare zone last year, they do the maze, I feel like it would be a huge slap in the face to the fans for Murdy not to do Trick or Treat, who have been asking for this maze. And again, it would just be a maze, you know, that, you know, Murdy likes to do mazes that are just for the fans, again, like American Horror Story and whatnot, that the general public are not really as aware of. But they're there for the fans who, you know, support the event. So I feel like Trick or Treat could be probably that maze this year. And again, since Orlando is likely going to do it, I feel like it's a huge missed opportunity if Murdy does not do it here in Hollywood.
Go ahead. We always be interrupting each other.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I would love to see it. It's such a great film. You know, a lot of people want to see it, and so it's just kind of like, you know, just do it. You know.
So on the topic of Orlando, let's expand the demographic a little bit more here. What mazes have a possibility of being in both Orlando and Hollywood? Because Orlando does like to do original mazes. So I know that, what is it, American Horror? We shared American. No, because Orlando did Asylum. But what mazes are going to be in Hollywood that will be in Orlando this year?
I would say without a doubt, American Horror Story and Halloween. Like, you know, without a doubt. And if we do Stranger Things or It, or both of them, they are for sure, without a doubt, going to come to the event. I mean, to both coasts. It just wouldn't make sense if, you know, one of them went to one coast or one of them went to the other. And same goes for Trick or Treat, you know, like we were mentioning. And same goes for The Thing. I know that Michael Aiello is like a huge fan of The Thing, and they haven't done it in a while. they've never done the original. They did a sequel back in 2007. They did a prequel back in 2011, just like we did. So maybe they finally want to come back to it. But I do think if we were to get like The Strangers or Classical Monsters or a Music Maze or Blumhouse 2.0, that would be our exclusive. Like we wouldn't share that with Orlando.
Yeah, and I think that Orlando has this thing that they like doing is like there's like Orlando and Hollywood both like doing the same old mazes. So like The Exorcist they shared, The Shining they shared, and The Thing they'll probably share too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the big properties are pretty much just they're gonna go to either both of the events because it wouldn't really make sense financially and for the fans to just include it on one event. But Trick or Treat, it does have a chance of being like an Orlando exclusive if we don't share in Hollywood. But stuff like the Classic Monsters and like maybe The Strangers or something like that, that's definitely probably just gonna stay here in Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of which, I mentioned Music Maze. We have not had a Music Maze in a while. It doesn't need to be 3D. It could. Scott recently asked Murdy about 3D mazes, and he said that they get discussed every year. So is there a possibility that we could finally get like a return to Music Mazes?
I think that they should bring back Jose's favorite maze of all time. Actually, two favorite mazes. Clowns 3D and This Is the End. Both of Jose's favorite.
And Black Sabbath. No,
ever.
3. Black Sabbath.
Oh yeah.
I hate 3D mazes with a passion. I just don't like them, but I'm all for seeing Music Mazes come back.
Yeah, definitely. Music
please just
cool.
Don't make them 3D.
Like 3D mazes aren't scary. I think that they're cool, but they're just not scary and they're not good.
When he started off with 3D mazes with House of a Thousand Corpses, that was actually a pretty good maze that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, it was.
But the main reason I enjoyed it was because it wasn't that neon flashing 3D that lights up the whole fucking maze.
And it wasn't, yeah, you didn't have flashing strobe lights in your face or just like glowing paint throughout the whole damn maze.
Yeah, and by the time we got to this is the end, it was like full on. It didn't take itself seriously. It wasn't even scary. It didn't even feel like a Horror Nights maze. It felt like something you'd see at like fucking Six Flags.
And let's be completely honest, Murdy loves to reuse crap in 3D mazes. Since we had Alice Cooper 3D, those walls from Alice Cooper 3D have been reused in every single 3D maze after. When we have a 3D maze, it's the exact same walls with different characters.
Okay, I will give This Is the End props though for this one thing is the characters that they use, the costumes that they use. Those are pretty good. Like I'll give it to them for that. Those are pretty good.
And it was a funny maze. Like Ashford the Dead was so fucking boring and
that's the thing that like throws off like the maze though is like from scariness is like if they put too much comedy into a maze, then it's not gonna feel like an actual maze. Like I love the end when you're going into hell and he's like, welcome to heaven, motherfuckers. Like that's fucking great. But like the three dudes playing around with like the intestines, like showing it like it's their dick, but by the truck area, that's just like that. Like you don't need that for a damn maze. Like
yeah, it's just so like it just doesn't work. It's just oh my god. And I can't believe that maze like happened.
It's honestly, I love the concept of like comedy mazes, but Murdy just doesn't get it. He's proved it time and time again that he just doesn't get it. He either goes really over the top to the point where it's just like slapstick, annoying type of funny, or he just like cuts the humor off completely, like last year with Ash vs. Evil Dead, which was advertised as a comedy maze, but there was virtually no comedy in that maze whatsoever.
Yeah, it was black walls, the vines. Oh, look, there's Ash.
And that maze was so fucking boring and unfull. Like there was no life in that maze.
Okay, like we all on open. We all walked through that on the first, like as a first maze, and that thing was crap. That like that there was, and it wasn't just like a whole like we walked through it during the daytime. It was just bad. Like especially all the annoying vines. Like those things hurt.
Yeah, and when we got out of the maze, like all of us were quiet. Like all of us were like we didn't really want to talk about it because it was just like such a disappointment. And that's the thing. there needs to be a blend between comedy and horror. But Murdy just doesn't get that. Either the mazes are too fucking like boring and they don't have any comedy whatsoever, like Ash, or they're too fucking over the top and they don't take themselves seriously and they don't even feel like a fucking maze. Like this is the end. So I don't think we're gonna get like good comedy mazes until like someone else comes in, at least.
Yeah, I feel like he should in the end just stop trying to make comedy mazes. He's proven time and time again that he does not know how to do it. So, but on the topic of music mazes, I'd love to see them make a comeback. I asked him on Twitter if he'd be interested in finishing his Alice Cooper trilogy, and he said that if he could, he would. Which I'd be definitely interested to see where he would take the Alice Cooper mazes. And there's a lot of other musicians that I know could make great mazes at the event. For instance, me personally, I would love to see Marilyn Manson at the event or something along those lines.
Rob Zombie.
But Rob Zombie's been at the event, and I think the thing about Rob Zombie is that we kind of ended with the sour note with Rob Zombie, since he wanted us to do a maze based off the Lords of Salem, which Murdy did not want to do, and he pretty much just screwed everything over and did his own event, and that was the end of it. So Rob Zombie, I don't think that's such a big possibility of coming back, but something like Alice Cooper, I would definitely love to see where he would take that maze. So, but again, I don't think it's something that's going to happen this year. By the looks of how he's talking about it on Twitter, it doesn't sound like something that he's doing this year, or even got the opportunity to consider this year. So, but it's definitely something to consider for years to come.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see Alice Cooper come back. It's it
seems like the Alice Cooper mazes were just like there's something good about them. Like
yeah, absolutely. Even Goes to Hell, which was weaker than Welcome to My Nightmare, was still pretty good. Like it was before the downfall. Like if we kept
a downfall of 3D
mazes as the quality of Goes to Hell, like Welcome to My Nightmare, or even Welcome to My Nightmare wasn't a 3D maze, but like House of a Thousand Corpses or Goes to Hell, I think like 3D mazes would be like fine. But then we got Black Sabbath and then Clowns, and then this is the end, and then that just killed 3D mazes. And then Murdy's over here just like, oh, why do people not like 3D mazes? Because they fucking suck. That's why. They were good once, and we've seen good 3D mazes, but now we got mazes that don't even take themselves fucking seriously and aren't fucking scary. They're just too bright, and 3D mazes are supposed to be trippy, right? They're supposed to be trippy and disorienting and weird. But none of the last 3 mazes that we had were any of those fucking things.
Like, here's the thing with Ghost to Hell, when it came out, it was the first neon 3D maze we had. We had House of a Thousand Corpses, which was the first 3D maze, but that was more of like, the red and blue type of 3D with just like flashing lights, but it didn't have none of that neon paint, which became the 3D mazes we know now. And so that concept was new back then, and a lot of people were interested in seeing how that would play out. And it even felt a little bit darker than most of the 3D mazes now. To me, just like the overall vibe of the maze, and like the lights were kind of dimmed down except for like the last couple scenes, but it was just kind of like the uniqueness about it. But but after that with Black Sabbath, they pretty much just reused the same walls and they turned the brightness up to 11. So that's what I think was why Ghost to Hell works and the rest of the other 3D mazes don't. But with stuff like Clowns, I didn't really have as much of a problem with Clowns as a lot of people did. I thought it was okay. But it was, just pretty much just a rehash of Ghost to Hell and Black Sabbath and all these other fucking, Saw, all this other stuff that we've seen at the event before. But if he were to find a way to, just kind of reinvent the 3D maze, I'd definitely be interested in seeing what he does with that. But again, 3D maze is just, the way he's doing them now, it just doesn't work for me.
And here's the thing, is like, we don't mean to throw Murdy under the bus or anything, but like Ben in the chat, he's saying it's not only Murdy though that's doing this. For as long as I've been going to the event since 2010, it's Murdy and Chris who come up with these ideas. Nobody really helps them. It comes from their brains, and it's not like I have something against them. It's just nothing comes from different people unless it's an IP. So like I said before, they want to throw in the Purge, then Universal's going to make them do that. But those are the only ideas that come out of it. When you come up with these original mazes, that's all Murdy and Chris. There's nothing else to it. There's nobody else doing it. That's all Murdy and Chris that do that. They do all these 3D mazes. They don't have people decide for them. They do these 3D mazes on their own will or on their own self.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I heard, Black Sabbath was like entirely Chris's idea, and that was the huge downfall. And you know, and I guess like now 3D mazes are like dead in like Knott's doesn't have 3D mazes. Queen Mary, like the only place you can really find a 3D maze is Six Flags, and that's because they keep reusing the maze.
Oh yeah, Six Flags Six Flags will always be the crappiest event, but
well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, last year I think
Castle Park.
Yeah, Castle Park. Well, it's like Six Flags was like much better than HGN last year, but
Six Flags definitely improves a lot. They improved last year, and so did Knott's. Like, okay, hands down. I don't know if you. Well, I know that Jose and Justin went, but like anyone in the chat, if you didn't go to Knott's next year, and you're saying that Hornets is better, don't say that because
fucking god,
Knott's definitely topped Hornets last year.
Oh my god, they fucking blew it out of the park.
Knott's definitely topped Horror Nights last year.
It's like Horror Nights last year was kind of fun, but it wasn't the same. Like it was so focused on being the same like previous years instead of like refreshing it up like each year, that it was like fucking annoying going into mazes and seeing black walls, reused props, shitty scares of people opening fucking boxes out of the doors. That was annoying as fuck. So when I went to Knott's and I went to Trick or Treat Lights Out and I was given a fucking flashlight and forced to go into a house by myself, that's when I said that, oh my god, Knott's is so much better than HHN. It's so much more fun, so much more interactive, and it's so much fucking better.
Yeah, you know, they definitely gave HHN a run for their money last year, and I think it just shows, you know, Knott's was very crowded last year. I think a lot of people did end up going to Knott's, and you know, just like the regular just comments you see from people on like Yelp and Twitter and whatnot, or people, you know, saying that Horror Nights was pretty bad this year and that Knott's pretty much just beat them. You know, I was honestly, like you were saying, I was pretty impressed with Knott's. I had only been to Knott's before last year just once. It was 2015, and I thought it was absolutely horrible. I didn't understand why people compared it so much to Horror Nights, but last year they topped Universal, and they definitely gave them a run for their money. So I think the main thing to come out of this is that Universal really has to look at the way that Knott's kind of just reinvented the game, and they pretty much just one up them, and they have to bring their quality up if they want to keep competing, which, you know.
And the reason, like, you can tell with a whole less crowds at Hornets, because like on a Saturday when it's usually packed, wait times for like Ash are like 10 minutes. Like, you don't ever see that at Horror Nights. But since the event was pretty bad quality, yeah, wait times like Ash or like no, I'm not saying Titans was bad because it was really good. We have wait times like Titans and Ash that are like 10 to like 20 minutes. You're used to seeing like 80 minute maze wait times. And the thing with people hating on it on Knott's is like I think Jose can speak for this, like he just said, is yeah, he went in 2015 and it was weak compared to Hornets because Hornets was so damn good, and Knott's is just kind of underneath there. But if people want to talk crap on like, oh, like Knott's can't do better or Knott's can do this, they need to go to the event and experience it before, because like I'm sure Jose was blown away by Knott's and wasn't expecting that at all this year.
I definitely wasn't. What I think is like pretty much like the biggest reason why Horror Nights, honestly, it's getting stale. You know, yes, we get new properties and whatnot, but we get the same cheap scare tactics that we get year after year. You walk down a hallway, you know somebody's gonna pop out of the picture portrait or the curtain that's just hanging there. You know when they pop out, you're gonna have like the strobe lights and the loud sound effect, and that's how they're gonna get you. Now, my biggest problem with Knott's in 2015 was the scares. You know, most of the people in Knott's mazes are just kind of walking around and they bang on walls and they stare at you. But this last year, Knott's really just reinvented the whole game pretty much by adding all these different scare tactics, like, you know, with Trick or Treat Lights Out. That's kind of a new gag, like what 3D was, but that worked really pretty well. And, you know, with their mazes like Dark Ride, I believe it was called. The level of detail in that maze was unlike anything Horror Nights has ever done and likely will do. They went so far as to put a whole track on the floor, as if, because it was based off a Dark Ride. They added the whole track on the floor. Murdy, he did the Shining carpet last year, but really that's it. Not they're becoming pretty innovative in a way, and it just feels fresh. It feels different than just having somebody pop out of a portrait and you see a whole bunch of strobe lights and a loud sound effect and whatnot, which I definitely think needs to change at Horror Nights if they want to, keep their crowds.
And James or Ben in the chat, USH Hacker, giving him a shout out. Go check him out. He's a good guy. He said that like you can't like deny HHN advertising last year sucked, and that's so true. It fucking blowed last year, and that's another thing. The quality of mazes and how it's getting stale, and now the advertising is like blowing. Like that's a huge factor, and the fact that they couldn't even announce like 4 fucking mazes by August, like the first day of August, is insane.
And let's not forget that Waterworld was supposed to be The Conjuring.
Yeah.
And it got scrapped.
Yeah, and that too, and it's just so crazy. Like the advertising last year was so bad.
I think that this year, because I'm going off a Highland, I think that this year is going to really turn Horror Nights around. Just so I don't sound like I'm like bagging on Horror Nights. I think that this year, if everything goes through, if everything like all the speculators say is going to happen, and Murdy's been hinting at a lot, if he follows through with that, I think that it will bring back Horror Nights up to an A level. But seeming how they've had a downfall, the merch, like last year, the merch, it was cool, yeah, but it was like it wasn't that great either. Like their advertising, like the Shining Lanyard was really cool and the Soul shirt was cool, but other than that, they were just selling they're selling the Leatherface shirt. That was just normal. Like they were selling crap like that, and their advertising was really bad due to the fact that they had no money because they're not drawing as many people as they used to. And I think that this year is really going to change that, and I'm praying.
But with the advertising, I think that another real big problem that came up with advertising is that I think they started a little too soon, or waited a little too long to do announcements. Because if you guys remember, they started selling tickets before they announced most of the mazes, and really when they started advertising, they put Ash vs Evil Dead and Saw up there on the main billboards with pretty much Ash vs Evil Dead. Like it's a good show, but most of the general public, they do not even know what Evil Dead is, period.
Yeah.
And now they had stuff like Insidious that they could have used for advertising in Titans of Terror, but they didn't advertise it because, that was announced after the whole ad campaign launched, so it was a little too late to just kind of include that in there, which I think in the end it is their fault for, dragging out announcement season. It was a shit show last year.
That's where you bring in like it and Stranger Things again, is like they need to have a big face or like a big property to advertise. Nobody's going to know what Ash vs Evil Dead is. It's not that big. Unless you're a true horror fan or like you watch a show.
Yeah, and that goes back into Trick or Treat. Like, no one knows what Ash vs. Evil Dead is, and Murdy's just constantly like, oh yeah, I'm waiting until the sequel to do Trick or Treat. Tons of people know Trick or Treat. I bet you that more people know Trick or Treat now than they know Ash vs. Evil Dead or the fucking Evil Dead films.
Exactly.
And that really just shows, with the 10-minute wait times that Ash vs. Evil Dead had on like packed Saturday nights, just really shows that people didn't care about it and they didn't even know what it was.
And the ones that go like on a normal basis, like us, like once you get those people out, because there are a lot of people that go on a normal basis, there's those people that actually like are brand new to the event, so they're just like, oh yeah, let's go try all those mazes, and those are the 10-minute people. But everyone else is seeing the maze. Nobody else gives a damn about it.
Yeah, and Ben was pointing out in the they're pointing out on the Twitter about scares and tactics. That's a huge problem with HHN, and it's that 95 of the scares last year were box in a wall, and you could see it from a fucking mile away. And the actors, he's saying, were lazier, and that's so true. when you look back at a maze like Insidious 2015, the cast was on top of their fucking game. And last year, you know, you go into Insidious and it was like one of the least scariest mazes I've ever gone through, and it was so disappointing. I mean, it wasn't Saw level. Saw is like not even fucking scary. I mean, it was fun, but not even scary. The only maze last year that I felt had good scares were AHS, you know, American Horror Story, and Shining.
Yeah, and then Shining did have a couple of those drop panels too, but they had like where Jack would come out of the corner and like you'd be walking like, so when you walked into the actual maze, like the actual like maze inside the maze, there was that part where James Franco did this thing where he did a scare and you walk, but you wouldn't want to look backward, so you'd just be straight walking, and then Jack would come out of nowhere and scare the living hell out of you. Like those were good.
Yeah, and another thing too is that like a lot of people complain about black walls, and especially in The Shining. But the thing is, even though those black hallways with Jack popping out of a box on a wall could be like actual detail, the reason why I don't mind them is that like something like Insidious or Blumhouse or even Ash, like you're walking through black halls, and there's nothing going on. It's just like lazy. There's no scare actors or anything. In Shining, every single time you went through a black hallway, it was to transition, and it was for a scare, and it worked pretty well actually, and it made for some really great scares. So I don't mind black walls in that regard. It worked well in Exorcist. It worked well in Shining. But yeah, that's what I just think of it.
Yeah, you know, pretty much. So I think we're gonna wrap up the podcast right here. I don't think there's really much else to talk about regarding H10 2018. I think there's not a lot of information out there, but when Murdy starts tweeting out more stuff, I'll definitely make another update video for you guys, and we'll be having another podcast soon to talk about everything that's been going on with the event and how it goes from there. So I want to thank everybody for watching today, and I want to thank first of all my panel of guests. So you guys have anything to say before we close up?
No, not really. I just want to tell everyone, just, have a great, have a great day. I mean, night.
I just want to say, like, throughout all this stuff, throughout the whole podcast, if you guys have been listening, I don't hate Horror Nights or what it's become. I just don't like the route that it's going, because if you've been going for the event for a long time, then you miss that detail. You miss the detail that you used to have, and you miss everything. And I know that Murdy can't do everything that like all the fans want, but at the same point, in a professional standpoint, you have to put something out there that everyone's gonna like. And so, well, like everyone's not gonna like it, but you had to put something out there that the majority is gonna like, and at least have one thing that the majority is gonna like. Because like last year, it was very, very weak. Like The Shining was up there, but it was still very, very weak. But I just want to say, like, I still love the event. It's still gonna go no matter what. There's nothing about that I'm not going to like. That's gonna make me not go to the event.
Yeah, and I love the event too, and it's great and stuff like that. But the message that I just want to get out in this podcast is that, like, I'm not sure if I should say this or not, but just if you get, like, a lot of people talk about me leaking the lineup, and I did, and I'm sorry to a lot of people, and like, don't become a source of info. And don't leak shit because you think it's cool, because it damages the event, and it showed so much last year. It wasn't just reused props or reused themes. Like, leaks hurt the event, believe it or not. Like, and it really hurt the event last year, and I'm sorry to a lot of people. So just don't like say anything. Just like, if you get something, brush it off, speculate, act like you know nothing, and just like learn. And and then the event will come and you'll have a great time. So I just wanted to say that. I feel as though 2018 will be amazing, or it could be okay. I just feel as though it will be a step up from 2017. And I think we're going to have, and I just think it's going to be fun. And I think they're going to learn from their mistakes, and they're going to fix them and move on.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for joining me here tonight, and I want to thank once again everybody for watching, and I'll be making another H10 2018 video for you guys pretty soon, so go ahead and stay tuned, and once again, thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll talk to you guys next time.